Today we're going to be taking a look at REC 2. With REC being short for, I recommend you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Taking place in the mythical land of Spain, REC 2 begins almost immediately where REC 1 ends, and by almost immediately, I mean actually immediately, as it's only been a matter of seconds. We're introduced to a group of characters in the back of a police truck, 4 heavily armed members of the GEO team. The GEO being the tactical police unit like the SWAT, except with significantly more olive oil. One of the members' firearm of choice is a giant camera, while all of the other members are equipped with different body cameras in an attempt to innovate over the original movie and have different points of views. Arriving at the apartment complex where that lady went and locked herself out of her room again, GEO members Martos, Rosso and Lara and the Chief meet up with Dr. Owen from the Ministry of Health, as they're tasked with escorting him inside to find out what's going on. Not really sure what being a male escort has got to do with this though. Something which turned out so well for them last time they did it, causing them to immediately do it all over again. They then enter the building and are immediately jump scared by today's sponsor, Raid Shadow Legends. At least it wasn't a Spanish person. Living in the current reality where I find myself hopelessly addicted to caffeine, an almost constant part of my life right now is perpetually boiling the kettle, and Raid is perfect for me in little moments like that. Bite-sized, addictive moments of gameplay to keep my attention span destroyed brain occupied instead of thinking about boring mundane things like my children and wife. Something that is super easy to pick up due to the endless amount of content and the ability to play cross-platform. Let's dive into one of the factions, the elusive and mysterious Sylvan Watchers, a faction that very much enjoys the art of watching, and also killing. Their home lies in the Mistwood, a huge jungle in the east of Teleria, surrounded by dangerous beasts eager to have you as a snack. If you somehow manage to get past them, then you've got to deal with the Sylvan Watchers themselves, who don't take too kindly to people trespassing on their land, and are more than happy to teach you about the concept of the Second Amendment, but with tree branches. With each champion of the Sylvan Watchers being in tune with nature in a unique way, why don't we take a look at some of them? Legendary Elva Autumnborn, Legendary King Galkabar, and my personal favourite, Legendary Green Warden Ruark. With all of these legendaries, you can rest assured that the Sylvan Watchers is going to be a faction that you can have a legendary time with. And while we're at it, let's not forget about the starter pack worth $30 containing Epic Champion Kellan the Shrike, and the other pack containing Epic Champion Uugo. While you're getting yourself some packs, make sure to use the promo code TREEHUGGER to get yourself one of my favourites, the legendary champion, Green Warden Ruark. In addition to all of this, both new and existing players can redeem 2 more promo codes with useful resources, so all of you users, make sure to check out the promo codes in the description. So make sure to click the link in the description or scan my QR code on screen to get started with all of this epic loot. Oh yeah, don't forget to check out my clan in-game. After entering the building with protective masks on so they don't have to smell the Spanish, they immediately discover a pool of blood on the lobby floor, where Jennifer's mother was handcuffed to the railings before being torn to death by the creatures. Dr. Owen, being able to immediately deduce that the virus is in fact not airborne but spreads through the transmission of saliva, due to him looking at a bit of blood for about 5 seconds. Diagnosing patients with about as much effectiveness as the NHS, Dr. Owens tells them that they need to head straight to the penthouse, the location where the previous movie ended after Angela was given the forced slip and slide. Fun Spanish activities to do with your buddies aside, they make it all of the way up there and break open the door without seeing a single person, to discover that there's no sign of the lanky Portuguese girl, or even Angela for that matter. Rosso, the cameraman, begins documenting everything he can, where they then discover the attic full of fun surprises. But this time around, after Martos sticks his head up to investigate, he doesn't discover any feral Spanish children, or any normal ones. After hearing a noise coming from outside of the apartment, followed by someone deciding that now is the time to play some nice and relaxing classical music, fitting for everybody to be horrifically killed to, the GEO team want to go investigate it in hopes of finding any survivors, but Dr. Owen wants them all to stay in here to help him on his lifelong mission of finding a woman. Disregarding what that weirdo has to say, they all go investigate it, with Martos heading off on his own, before discovering and turning off the record player. After putting it on mute, he leaves the room to be attacked by an average classical music listener who's angry about her music being turned off. The rest of the team eventually decide that they better actually be there with him, and come running to his assistance to find him standing there at the end of the hall while bleeding from his eye holes. Something which is extremely alarming at first, until you realise that's just how the Spanish cry. Martos, now infected, infected, sprints towards his teammates and starts to attack them. After beating up his buddies for the fun of it, they're not exactly in the rush to shoot one of their own, causing Dr. Owen to begin reciting a prayer, causing Martos to freeze in place, due to it reminding him of the childhood religious trauma he endured at the hands of his priest. Martos is then kicked into a room and has the door shut behind him as he's put in time out, before Dr. Owen then places a rosary on the door, which causes Martos to stop trying to break his way out, due to his extreme phobia of slightly small beads. After losing one of his men, and also being a bit of a scaredy pants, the chief wants to leave to save the rest of his team, but Dr. Owen refuses. The only way that they can get out of this place or communicate with the outside world is if they use his radio, which is locked via voice recognition. He tells them that this is bigger than all of them, and what they need to do is find a sample of blood from the original host in order to create an antidote, something which they should be able to find back up in the penthouse. And once they back up there, Dr. Owen explains that this isn't an ordinary virus, it's the Spanish flu. It started with a girl named Tristana, who at the age of 11 began showing signs of being possessed, i.e., she started her period. The Vatican eventually got involved, and instead of exorcising the demon out of her using a treadmill or something, they instead decided to lock her away and conduct research on her, with someone from the Vatican, a Father Albeda, in charge of studying her in the penthouse apartment. Dr. Owen then reveals to the team that he's actually a priest, because science is in fact a scam. He informs them that this is way above the Ministry of Health, and they have no idea what's really going on here. This has come from the top man himself. Jeebus. After making it clear that he isn't going to authorize their exit without it, and explaining the ramifications of what would happen if it escaped, Owen tells them that they must retrieve a blood sample from Tristana. And after discovering a reinforced door in the penthouse, they open it to discover that it only contains a corridor with no doors. But on the walls of this corridor are reports of experiments being conducted on possessed children, with one of those very children then suddenly dropping from the ceiling and attacking them, before jumping back up there and crawling away backwards to prove that gravity is indeed a man-made concept. And after hearing more movement coming from the ceilings, and fearing that it might be a small child, they all proceed to open fire. A large chunk of the ceiling then collapses, revealing the remains of Father Albelda, whose body had been kept up there for some time. Suddenly, the little boy returns with an extreme disdain for law enforcement, and also priests, and jumps on Owen's back. They manage to knock the child to the floor, being given the perfect opportunity for a clear shot, but they all refuse to take it, due to him being a misunderstood child with ADHD. But Owen, being from the church, and thinking that neurodivergence is another word for demonic activity, takes the chief's shotgun, and kills the creature himself. They all then have a bit of a moment to try and digest what it is that they just saw, that being a priest assaulting a small boy, before Lara climbs up into the exposed air duct that Albelda's body fell out of. While up there, not only does he discover that Albelda is the hide-and-seek champion, but that he's also been keeping a secret Monster Energy mini-fridge up here, which also happens to contain the blood from Tristana, the exact reason that they're here. But after being chased out of the air vent by an angry naked Spaniard, he returns to the others and hands over the sample. With that not being enough on its own to authorize their evacuation, he first wants to test the authenticity of the blood. He then performs a religious ritual to test the blood before it suddenly bursts into flames, confirming that it is indeed the blood of the Portuguese. But what he didn't realize when he made that sample explode into flames is that the rest of the blood in the vial would also do the same, causing the chief who was holding it to drop it onto the floor in a panic due to being scared of really bright lights. After retrieving the blood and then destroying said blood, Owen isn't going to let anyone out of here unless they find some more. But he has a plan. If they capture one of the already infected people, they simply ask it where Tristana is so we can get some more, because demons are apparently contractually forbidden from telling lies. Opening the door to the penthouse, they're then confronted by a man who they mistake for being infected, causing them to open fire and throw him down the stairwell for good measure. The man who is actually Jennifer's father from the first movie. In that movie, she was sick and he had left to go to the pharmacist, before the building was then locked down due to containing a bit of Ebola. After launching the man over the ledge, they then look down to see 3 other people on the staircase, looking back up at them. A man wearing a fireman costume, another male with a video camera, and a woman. And if I didn't already know that Angela, Manu, and Pablo from the previous movie were definitely dead, then I'd be likely to think that those people are them, except not really, because it very obviously isn't them. After chasing after them due to them having a video camera and these guys wanting to be the only ones to upload the video to YouTube for more views, they come across Jennifer's dad after his skydiving accident, and he's now infected, before realizing that there's also a large group of them coming from above, forcing them to run away. After a struggle involving some of the infected characters from the original movie, they're then able to lock themselves in an apartment for some temporary relief. Everyone except Lara, because I guess he just didn't want to do that. He was separated in the struggle and ended up in the apartment opposite to them, where he then discovers the old woman from the previous movie looking like she's about to make a move on him. But due to his extreme hatred for the elderly, he opens fire on her, alerting the other infected to his presence. Backed into the bathroom and with no ammo for his rifle, with the infected only moments away from breaking down the door to fill him with delicious love bites, he pulls out his sidearm to use on himself instead of staying and fighting. The officers then get a signal from Martos' camera, as it was knocked to the floor when he became infected, to discover that it's the survivors who they spotted on the stairwell. The officers are then attacked by a terrifying creature known as a Spanish child, and after committing some good old-fashioned child abuse, the chief manages to get a hold of her as they try to speak to the demon who infected Tristana through her. But in typical small child demon behaviour, she proceeds to laugh and puke blood all over them, causing one of the officers to shoot her in the struggle due to getting blood all over his freshly cleaned uniform. It then cuts to the people who we saw on the stairwell filming with the video camera shortly before the events of the movie unfolded. It's three teenagers, Tito, Miri and Ori, attempting to attach fireworks to an inflatable doll so they can watch it fly into the air and explode. Something which rather anticlimactically doesn't work before armed police appear on the building, because apparently in Spain fireworks are illegal. The police were actually there because down on the street they then find themselves opposite the apartment complex to see the father of Jennifer convincing one of the firemen to help him access the building through the sewers, a way that the group from the previous movie were originally going to use to escape, until they just kinda didn't do that. So not really understanding what's going on but just wanting to get some cool footage, they follow them in and gain access to the apartment complex. They emerge in the factory section of the building, where one of the boys, Tito, discovers a gun. But after handing it to Ori, he immediately fires it due to him actually being a psychopath and wanting to kill all of his friends, alerting both the fireman and Jennifer's father. The fireman attempts to force the kids to leave due to their terrible trigger discipline, only for them all to discover that the hatch they used to enter the building has been welded shut behind them and they're all trapped, with no other way to leave. Eventually they discover the pool of blood in the lobby, with the father not realizing that it's the pool of blood of his wife who was torn to pieces by hungry Spanish people. They then head upstairs to his apartment, and after getting inside, he discovers his wife cooking something in the kitchen before she sprints at him and tries to kill him. With the chaos erupting around them as his wife is committing a bit of a domestic, Tito resorts to the method he usually does for unruly women and puts a firework in her mouth and watches her head explode. A firework that's somehow able to throw a fully grown woman across a hallway despite not being able to lift an inflatable doll. My immersion is ruined, and I simply cannot watch this anymore. The man was bitten by his wife during the scuffle, but due to them not yet realizing what's going on and how the infection spreads, they don't realize the danger that they're in with him. And not just the danger with him, as when the fireman then approaches the window, he suddenly has half of his ear blown off by a sniper rifle round due to whoever shooting him having a severe hatred of people who can hear properly. They don't need to worry about the threat of the bitten man much longer, as after making it out of the apartment, he then runs up the stairs looking for Jennifer before coming face to face with the armed police. And the Spanish police, much like the American police, proceed to open fire immediately for no reason and throw him down the stairs. After the police tell the others to stop, they proceed to not stop but instead run away after just being sniped at by police and watching those guys see how fast they can make that man get to the bottom floor. After managing to evade them, that's when they discover Martos' helmet and accidentally give away their location before hearing Jennifer calling out to her father. Wanting to help the little girl, whose dad was just given a pancake for a skull, they come across the door with the rosary on it. But when they open the door, they don't see a little girl, but a fully grown Spanish man who has now been freed from his siesta room. He sprints at them and attacks, and in the struggle between them and the little girl cosplaying as a fully grown man, the firefighter drops the gun, and Mireille picks it up to try and save him, but ends up accidentally shooting him directly in the face while attempting to help. She's then forced to kill an infected Martos as he tries to attack her too, when suddenly the armed police and Owen then arrive, not too happy about their opportunity to talk to the demon, now laying dead on the floor. The officers and Owen realise that Tito has also been bitten, so they decide to use him as the next best thing. They restrain him as he begins to turn, and lock Mireille and Ori in the room out of the way, when suddenly Angela, somehow still alive, enters the apartment holding her camera. After realising who she is, Owen begins talking to the demon through his pen pal Tito, and compels the demon to tell him where Tristana is. She's apparently in the penthouse where they originally started. The only clue that the demon gives is that the light blinds you. and with Angela saying that they were attacked in the dark when using night vision, they then realize that they won't be able to see her in the light due to her crippling social anxiety. The priest explains that the angels who lost their dignity were kept in a prison of eternal darkness by the Lord, but apparently the Lord just let them freely roam around to do whatever they want, with the added bonus of them now being invisible. So after heading back up to the apartment and to the blank corridor, they turn the lights off and activate the night vision to reveal a hidden door. Inside the room, they come across what appears to be a well on the top floor of the building, because well, isn't that suspicious? A hand then emerges from it and pulls the chief into the water because he's in desperate need of a bath, but once they turn the light back on, the well and also the chief are completely gone. Rosso then turns around to see Tristana standing awkwardly close to him, as social cues aren't exactly her strong point, before she proceeds to attack him with her trusty hammer before running away. Angela then tells them that she can't see them in the darkness, and they all proceed to stand there silently as Rosso films her walking around the room in her undies. She walks directly up to them and stands inches away from the camera when suddenly Owen's radio starts to make a noise. After being grabbed and attacked by Tristana, she suddenly turns her attention towards Angela, who proceeds to blow half of her head off using the chief's shotgun because she wasn't really using it anyway. Enraged because apparently you can't draw blood from someone who's died literally just a few seconds ago, Owen begins scolding her for ruining their only shot before she proceeds to attack him and tell him to authorize their exit. He continuously refuses, as apparently his favorite thing in the world to do is to not let people leave this apartment complex, causing Angela to knock him to the floor and shoot Rosso. Surprise, surprise, she then reveals to Owen that she's actually now possessed by the demon before crushing his skull against the floor. And just like Martos did with Jennifer's voice, she then picks up his radio and mimics his voice to authorize her evacuation while saying that he's going to stay behind because he's infected as well. We then see that at the end of the first movie, she was held to the floor by Tristana and forcefully kissed like a French person, allowing the demon to transfer into her, literally seconds before hearing the armed police and Dr. Owen arriving at the building. So before this video comes to an end, I'd like to just give a big shout out and a massive thank you to all of the YouTube members and patrons, the people who every month continue to go out of their way to help support the channel. If you're interested in becoming a YouTube member or patron yourself, not only are you just generally being a great support, but you also get access to a few little perks, like being able to join the private Discord server, where you can then get links to all uncensored versions of videos. So, starting off with this week's new YouTube member signups, a massive thank you to Jablissi, B Moose, Monet, Garango Horror, Jordan Parker, PC Van Der Veen, Danga1999, Hell Nor Heaven, Sungaff, Table Kun, Zachary Peters, The Useless Whale, Karen Suter, The Soldier 420, Mai, the one guy you might like from somewhere, Zarzalord, Loki, Zach Bennett, Ace the Spade, Ananana, Thiago Uriarte, U3DPZNRZ, Sean Cicilano, Old Man Brendy, James Warner, Difficulty Spike, CeeLo Graham, Anthony Clarté, Travster100, Catlin Dexter, TXC0, Tyler Wysensky, Boxhead, Tyler Andrews, Feisty Squirrel, and Jas Renee. And now heading over to this week's new Patreon signups, a massive thank you to Renars Panovs, Mars, Spike ZX, Newly D, Elite Love 21, Tom, Jordan Nagian, Bastion, Dewey Doo-Doo, Ellie Belly, Primezilla, Demarcus Morland, John Haas, Thomas Harding, Vex124, Christian McLean, Dallas Cleash, Nightcore, Big Will's Father, thanks Dad, Kevin Pham, Kaylee, Jonathan Brogard, 3M Sinatas, Bethany Vaughan, Boyd Van Gwern, Moo, Sheba, Mary, and Ben Woodbridge. So once again, a massive shout out to all of the YouTube members and patrons, and a big thank you to everyone else for watching.